Welcome to Nitpicking Nerds. Today it's a top 10, baby.
Top 10 strongest commander cards from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, Beezy, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds, bringing you daily commander content as always. And I want to wish a happy birthday to everyone whose birthday falls on today. But instead of our usual plugs, we have a special sponsor for today's video, which is Into the AM. It's like a stylized apparel company. They make some really wacky out there stuff. We're currently wearing. I have the astronaut in space on clouds with planets right next to him.
Yes, and I have the Kraken attacking a lighthouse in space, but also in water.
I think there's probably more official names for those, but that's what I'm going to call them. So they sent us product a little while ago to try out, and we've been wearing them on the show every once in a while. And pretty much every time we wear them, people are always like, whoa, what is that? How do I get it? We've had friends ask us, and actually have a different friend who just uses them all the time, and we didn't know until he told us.
Yeah, completely crazy that people are just wearing these designs are completely unique. They got artists over there literally making new shirts all the time, so you're going to be able to get new ones all the time. We were sent this product and we love the product. You know that we are not going to advertise a product on this channel that we do not like and enjoy. And we absolutely like and enjoy this. We've been wearing them on the channel, not having to, for the past like 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, these are just kind of added at this point to my rotation of usual t-shirts. I'm more of a comfort guy when I want to put on clothes. Essentially, that is like the main thing I care about. And then I just see the designs as a nice bonus.
Yes, they're an awesome bonus on top of the already comfortable shirts you're getting. Use our link in the description to get 10% off your order. Obviously, you know it's intotheam.com/nitpickingnerds because we're that awesome. We got that cool of a link.
10%. That's no joke.
That's
like a pretty sizable chunk.
Yes, and if you want graphic tees, they're 3 for $60. Basic tees, 3 for $45.
Before you get 10% off, when you use the code. This is unheard of, folks.
Unheard of stuff. Let's get into the video.
All right, so let's get into this top 10. It's very juicy, but we have to mention something right off the bat. It's like quote-unquote honorable mention. Basically just swift reconfiguration. That's the magic card that turns things into vehicles. It's not on this list. So here's the thing. I think if you are not comboing specifically with Devoted Druid or some other thing that lets you go infinite, this card is absolute trash and you should never play it. So a good comparison might be, is Pestermite a good magic card? No, it's not a good commander card, but it's good in the Kiki-Jiki deck where you're just going to combo with it, but that doesn't mean it's a good magic card, so that card is not on this list. How about number 10, Cherries?
Number 10 is Dockside Chef. What a sweet card. 1 black for a 1/2, 1 in a black, sacrifice an artifact or a creature, draw a card. Super simple design here. I love that we're not paying for this overcosted body. No, we're getting a 1/2 for 1, totally fair, and then you get an awesome sacrifice ability.
And it's randomly an enchantment, which is probably just positive. I mean, it could die to random stuff, but it's 1 mana, so I'm not really worried about that. If my 7-drop is an enchantment, then I'm a little more worried for no reason. But this is just extra type.
It's extra synergy in certain decks. Like
Delirium, just like, random enchantment nonsense.
Yeah, 1% of decks out there that are going to want this card are going to be happy it's an enchantment. And that's just an upside for the card.
Yeah, it's totally fair. I mean, it's not better than like Midnight Reaper or some of that stuff, but it's a reasonable sack outlet. It gives you a reasonable payoff. I don't think this set was through the moon crazy for Commander, but I still think this is a good card.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of there's probably like 20 solid cards that are going to make it into Commander decks like throughout, like maybe not staples, but they'll see play in specific decks. And Dockside Chef is definitely one of them. I think this card's just, like you said, this is just a great sack outlet for your Aristocrats decks. It's maybe not your super high-powered ones, but your mid-range ones, your mid-tier ones.
All right, number 9, we got Organic Extinction. This is 8 white with Improvise, and it destroys all non-artifact creatures. So pretty specific. You kind of got to be in a very minimal creature deck with a bunch of artifacts, or artifact creature deck with a bunch of artifact creatures that you can just make this a one-sided board wipe. Because once you're doing that, this is one of the best board wipes you can play. I love the white board wipes because there's like 1,000 of them, but 2 or 3 of them are the best for some certain archetype, and then you've got, Vanquish the Horde and Tragic Arrogance is like the overall best ones, but then some decks are just like, oh, this is one-sided for me. Oh, Austere Command, this is one-sided for me. It's great.
Yeah, I love that we get that with white board wipes. It's like you pick the best ones for your deck. There's a wide array of them. This is going to be the best for some decks. I don't think it's a lot of decks, but in the decks that want Organic Extinction, it is going to be an insanely strong board wipe in that deck. It's going to be a 2-mana Plague Wind.
It's going to be a big upgrade over whatever board wipe they were playing instead.
Yeah, definitely. Up next, we got AO, and people are going to tell me that I'm pronouncing it wrong, but I don't care. The Dawn's Sky, 3 white for a 5/4 flying vigilance. When it dies, you get to choose one of these. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put any number of non-land permanents, total mana value 4 or less from them onto the battlefield. Put the rest in the bottom in a random order. And your other choice is to put 2 +1/+1 counters on all your vehicles and all of your creatures.
Right, so it's going to die into some kind of board state. You're not going to be left empty boarded when this thing dies. I always tend to overlook these janky big mana mythic flyers. I kind of write them off in my head just through years, decades of experience at this point. Well, one decade of experience. And I think some of these dragons actually crack into some of the better cards in the set. And I was I underrated AO at first, but I think in the non-crazy competitive, it's going to be rock solid.
I just think this card's really good, and I probably would have put it a little higher, maybe 5 or 4 if I was grading by myself. I'm really a big fan of this card. My biggest thing for this card is that it doesn't matter if you're getting board wiped, and it doesn't matter if it's getting spot removed.
Right.
Whichever one is happening to this, granted it can be exiled, but
it also pairs well with stack outlets.
Yeah, and it pairs well with stack outlets, but it doesn't matter if it's a board wipe, or it doesn't matter if it's a spot removal spell. If they spot remove it, fine, counters on my team. If they wipe the board, get a quick little board state out of your top 7 and throw it onto the battlefield. I really like this card, and the fact that it's on top of all that good stuff that it does, it's a 5/4 flyer that gets to keep chipping in, has vigilance, so it blocks well too. I'm a huge fan of this card. I want to find a deck to try and play it in.
I think there's just a distinct kind of drop off. We have number 10, 9, and 8. And then I think from the next number onward is where you get to cards that are okay, these are higher power. But these first 3 are kind of hey, they're good. They're not going to blow any socks off. They're not competitive, highly tuned cards as much.
Yeah, I see. I think that's where I'm more on I think AO is higher power because we have another one of these dragons coming up on this list that we have higher, and I think they're both about as good as each other personally.
Well, we'll talk about that later then. How about number 7? It's Jin-Gitaxias Progress Tyrant. He's 5 blue, and when you cast your first artifact, instant, or sorcery each turn, you copy it, and the copies of artifacts become tokens, and then if any opponent tries to cast one of those spells for the first time, it gets countered. But let's say I pass to the next person. They can cast an instant and try to kill Jin-Gitaxias. It gets countered. But then someone else, whose turn it isn't, can cast an instant, and it won't be countered because the ability itself only triggers once each turn.
Yeah, because you worded it wrong. Yeah, it's the ability only triggers once per turn.
I got there eventually. I took the long way.
Yeah, we took the wrong route, but Jin-Gitaxias is just going to be a card that is another annoying boogeyman. Kind of. This one reminds me a lot of
Every Praetor.
Well, not every Praetor.
Vorinclex
specifically, where it's going to be very frustrating to play against because of how annoying he is. It's I don't even think he's busted.
Right.
I think he's good.
More annoying than good.
He's strong, way more annoying than good. He's going to be one of those cards where it's I don't want to deal with this stupid thing. He's so annoying. He's a great card. He's just this slot of these 6, 7, 8 drops is very clogged, and for some decks, he's going to be the best one, and that says something because the 7-drop slot in a deck is insane with how powerful it is. And this is you're gonna have decks where it's Jin-Gitaxias is 100% the choice for this deck.
And normally I hate this argument, but this card specifically is actually, all fatties are, but this one's actually really good with reanimation because it lets you keep all your mana untapped, holding up counter spells for things that would actually kill him. Plus, if you just spend, 1 or 2 mana to get him back from the graveyard, now you can cast whatever thing you want and it's gonna get copied right away.
Yeah, he is a great reanimation target, no doubt.
Better than most. Better than Runescar Demon.
Yeah, up next we have a card that is not as flashy, but is better.
But it is Sashy.
It is Sashy. It's Lion Sash, 1 and a white for a 1/1. It's an equipment, but it's also a creature. It's got the reconfigure ability.
Not confusing at all.
Not confusing at all. You pay a white, exile a card from a graveyard. If it's a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and the reconfigured creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on it.
And it reconfigures for 2, I think.
Yes, it does. This card is really sweet. There's just so many decks in existence that are playing Stoneforge Mystic, and it's hard for me to believe that many decks that aren't going up into 3, 4, 5 colors, your 1 and 2 color decks that are already playing Stoneforge Mystic, it feels like this goes in every single one of them. You're adding your Stoneforge package, becoming more versatile and becoming Graveyard Hate is an insane upgrade.
Well, you get this toolbox package. White already has these kind of cards Recruiter of the Guard. That goes and finds this. That can go find Stoneforge Mystic.
That too.
Can go find this, and it's just all this stuff just starts snowballing, and you just get this amazing toolkit. I think this fits right into the Stoneforge Mystic big creatures big subset of creatures that ETB and find something. Ranger Vios, Ranger Captain. Then there's like the Esper Sentinels that you go get. And then there's like the Savines Reclamations and Sun Titans that get all of them back. And this is a great entry to that.
Yeah, exactly. You made a great point. Stoneforge Mystic searches this up and Recruiter of the Guard searches this up. Because this is a creature, this is an artifact. If you happen to be playing like a green-white deck, you also get to, if you're playing maybe some equipment, you get to Stoneforge it or Court of Calling it out. It's like the fact that it's on both sides and it's both of those things makes it so much better.
And this is going to my God Eternal Catcher deck for sure, because she has double strike, and this thing not only hates out graveyard strategy, but then just makes her like lethal.
Yeah, this card is very strong. I am a huge fan of Lion Sash.
Really solid. Number 5, we got Ruthless Technomancer. 3 to black for a 2/4. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, create a number of treasure tokens equal to that creature's power. And you can pay 2 and a black and sacrifice X artifacts to return target creature card with power X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. X can't be 0. This card immediately reminded me of Disciple of Bolas. It's very similar numbers and things going on, except this one is just obviously gives you mana and not cards. Might be better. I mean, obviously there's an extra ability on there that just says, hey, got a bunch of treasures, got a bunch of nonsense hanging around, just reanimate like 2 or 3 creatures.
You can definitely do some strong things with this, because if you have a tokens type deck, maybe you're playing something sweet like a Chatterfang deck, this goes right in, where now you sacrifice a creature, you don't just get treasures, you get squirrels. I'm sure there are combos with this. I mean, it'd be
at least loops, right?
I mean, loops, like maybe 3-card, 4-card combos. This card seems very strong. And like you said, there's a nice discussion of like, what is better? Getting 10 treasures or drawing 10 cards. Now, it obviously situations pick or play out differently. So,
I would say for the most part, I'd rather have 10 treasures.
Yeah, and it's really cool. These cards are really good. Drawing 10 cards is great, and you do want to do that a lot, but making 10 treasures has just shown itself to be so incredibly powerful. That's why your Grim Hirelings are and your Smothering Tides. These cards are just insanely strong, because we're learning and we're finding out, because treasure is such a prominent thing in Magic now, that treasures, when you can get a ton of them, are very strong.
And treasures aren't specific to that token. It's just mana, and that's the token that makes mana. So let's not treasures do this. It's just, hey, mana's really good.
Well, yeah,
you can always spend a bunch of mana on Commander, especially if your deck's built right, and this card's just going to absolutely oil up everything. I don't know. It's going to oil up your deck.
Lotus Petal is a playable card in Commander, and
just ask me.
It's a playable card in Commander, and treasures are slightly worse Lotus Petals.
Right.
So making a ton of Lotus Petals is pretty strong.
Right. This goes right in all your sacrifice decks, and I think it's going to be sweet. You don't even need a bunch of treasures to make this good.
Up next, we have Junji. The Midnight Sky, I think, is on par with AO, but BZ had me put AO lower.
We'll get there.
He didn't agree. For Junji, we have 3 black for a 5/5 flyer with menace. When it dies, you get to pick one of these 2. Each opponent discards 2 cards and loses 2 life. Or return a non-dragon creature from a graveyard to the battlefield, you lose 2 life.
I think this definitely, for me, transcends the fair magic of AO Sean Kingston, because you can now loop this way more aggressively, and it kind of pseudo combos with things. You know, if you have this Karmic Item Blood Artist and you're going to be sacrificing something, well, that's just infinite triggers, death stuff going on. Blood Artist is going to win the game. I think this has more combo potential, more like late game potential, and more just aggressive reanimate/looping of this card to just discard their entire hand. If you animate this, they lose 4 cards, and if you sacrifice it again, they lose 6 cards each.
Yeah, so I agree. This card is definitely strong. And again, just like the other dragon, like AO I mentioned earlier, I love that you get a aggressively costed flyer. You get a 5/5 for 5 flyer with menace, so it's even harder to block. And then when it dies, you get the real juice. That's like what you're playing the card for is when it dies.
This dies into a 6-for-1.
Exactly, and that's what's really, really sweet about these cards. All these dragons definitely have homes in Commander, because all of them are nicely costed for their body, for being a flyer, and then they die into really solid effects. The older dragons, they were a little overcosted.
Yeah, I've been questioning in my head whether this is better than Kakusho.
I mean, I think AO is better than Kakusho. I think that because Kakusho is both 6 mana and only has 1 choice, there's no versatility on the card. It's a little worse than most of these dragons, but Kakusho, obviously still a fine card.
It's a good Magic card.
It's a good Magic card, no doubt. But yeah, I think these new dragons might be better than... They're definitely, as a whole...
Better than their predecessors.
They're much better than the predecessors.
They were reincarnated into... They got an upgrade.
Yeah, they reincarnation served them well.
Moving on to number 3, we got Farewell. It's another white board wipe. It exiles all artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or graveyards, except you get to mix and match and just choose any number of those.
Yes, it also costs 4 white.
That's an important part of the card is the mana cost, which I definitely said.
Also a sorcery.
I said that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So go back and check it.
Yeah, it must be in the tapes. BZ said all of that.
Yeah, give us the watch time.
Farewell is an amazing board wipe. This is... Seriously, it's top. I really do think it's top 3. I actually looked through white board wipes after our video.
Oh, double check.
To double check if I thought anything was better than this. It's Tragic Arrogance, Vanquish the Horde, this card. And you can, however you want to rate them, because they're all different and strong in their own right, they're all great board wipes. The fact that this exiles graveyards is going to be the thing I go back to over and over again. I really do. Obviously, exiling creatures, enchantments, artifacts, very strong. Graveyards is such a nice cherry on top of this card to just make sure that almost any strategy can get hosed by this Farewell.
It also prevents the rebuilding. It's like, oh, you have a graveyard deck. I have a Viscera Seer in play. You're going to exile my dudes? Nope, sacrifice them all. It's like, okay, fine. You do that. But they're gone. You don't get to play with them next turn.
Yeah, exactly. And there's also like there's the replenish decks. They're going to rebuy all their enchantments. Like maybe, sure, you exile the ones in the field, but they've been putting other ones in the graveyard all game. But no, this card stops that. It stops a whole extra aspect for free. It is essentially for free, and it's modal. So you get to just be like, if I have the best graveyard, I'm not doing it. I don't even have to choose it if I don't want. Having modes in this card makes it so insane. I have the best artifacts and enchantments, but creatures are a problem. Boom, exile artifacts, exile graveyards. I'm done.
Right. I don't have any enchantments. Well, it's just a one-sided board wipe then. You just get rid of all the enchantments you don't control.
There's so many options on this one card that even though it's a 6-mana board wipe, which is bordering toward a high mana cost, it's worth it. Because that should tell you how good this card is.
This is what people thought Merciless Eviction was, and we had to tell them it wasn't, because I don't think that card's very good. This is the good one.
The fact that 6 mana, which is right where I'm going to stop playing board wipes, we're talking about it being one of the best white board wipes ever printed, that says quite a lot about this card.
Why do they just keep making the best board wipes?
It's fine.
They're like top 5 entry, every set, top 5 entry. It's like,
because we got Vanquish the Horde 2 sets ago.
I mean, even like by invitation only, which I don't even remember if it was in the same set or not, but it was up there. It's a good card.
That was in VOW. That was in the last set. But it was also a good card. But it's like
rapid fire on these board wipes.
It's great. The thing that I love about and I will say this about the design of these board wipes is, again, yes, some of them are really, really, really strong, but we're getting the good one for this deck, good one for this deck. It's like by invitation only, it's great.
Here's your tokens board wipe.
Here's
tokens
your
artifact creature board wipe.
It's like, keep giving us all these different board wipes. I'm totally fine with it. I love having versatility. You know what it fights? Having a ton of different great options for cards fights homogenization, because you don't have to play Farewell, because there's 7 other ones that are almost just as good. In fact, if you play Wrath of God in your deck, I think it's way worse than Farewell, you're going to feel it's going to be about the same, probably like 60% of the time, which is...
The board wipes are close to each other.
They're so close. Board wipes are just incredibly strong.
With a few exceptions. With a few exceptions, they're like way above. But let's go to number 2. It's Kodama of the West Tree. My body can rest and my soul can be at ease, because they completed the Kodama cycle. We got north, south, east, west, center. We're done. We did it. I was so mad they didn't put West Tree in Commander Legends.
What about Kami of the Northwest Tree?
We don't have I don't know, what are those, secondary directions? Secondary cardinal? I don't need those.
The Kami of the Southwest Tree? Come on.
But are we going to have to make a 360 circles of like northeast, northeast? I don't know.
No.
How much further does it go?
Kami of the Northeast Tree is all I want.
2 and a green for a 3/3. It has reach, unlike most of the other Kodama trees, and this one's way smaller than those. But your modified creatures have trample, and whenever a modified creature hits a player, any number of them hitting any number of players, you get a basic land tapped from your deck.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, I just think this card is really, really strong.
Oh boy.
You sneak through any damage with your trample creatures, because Kodama gives trample, and all of a sudden you're just ramping out of control. This card is one of the big reasons I'm going up to like, I think 8 or 9 basics in my Halana Elena deck, because I want to be sure I don't run out of basics with Kodama hitting, because I think because he gives trample, I'm going to be able to sneak through at least 3 or 4 hits regularly.
Yeah, and once you kind of get the basics, even if he sticks around that long, which is already great, now you're still just pushing through damage, and it kind of gives like evasion off a trample. And I think I'm putting this in Skullbriar. That card's going to be hitting somebody every day. It gives Skullbriar trample and I'm going to probably have to up the basic count. And it takes a powerful card for me to want to play more basic lands.
Yeah, it really does, because it makes you. We're big like Field of Dead builders, but like we're gonna cut away from that just to play because this card is so powerful in the list. It's like again, this is a specific card to decks.
Right, it's counters decks.
It's only counters decks. But God, in those decks, it's great. I mean, it also goes in your auras decks if you're enchanting a lot of different things.
Sure.
I mean, it's any modification, but most counters is the most prominent archetype that you're gonna see. All right, it's time for number 1. I mean, if you didn't see this coming, you should have seen it coming.
Look, any top anything list from Neon Dynasty Commander cards, this should be number 1.
Yeah, it really should. So, I mean, number 1 is, we're going to say all 5 channel lands. Now, we understand Boseiju obviously sticking out at the top of those lands, but all of them are here. They're all absolutely amazing for this format. The names of them are Ajanjo, Seat of the Empire, Ottawa, Soaring City, Takanume, Abandoned Mire, Sokenza, Crucible of Defiance, and Boseiju, Who Endures.
You got one of those right.
Yeah, no, I got all of them.
You got one of those right.
Tell me I didn't say Ottawa right.
Yeah, all right. Anyway, now the thing about these lands that I think a lot of people aren't getting, maybe some people are, but Boseiju is obviously the best one. But I think that one's getting like way more hype than the rest of them. But if you ask me, BC, what are the 5 best cards in the set? Not even close. It's these 5 cards. They are number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Just because Boseiju is the best doesn't mean that every single one of these isn't a slam dunk auto include in 1 and 2 colors, and then sometimes even further out than that.
Yeah, these cards are just absolutely amazing. So if you're wondering what they do, they are all untapped legendary lands. Legendary land not going to have a negative impact in Commander, where we just don't care because we can only play one-ofs anyway. So they have an ability which says you discard them from your hand, and it costs 1 less for each legend you control. For a Janjo, you're just a Jango.
I think it's Iganjo.
Iganjo Castle.
That's what I'd say.
It's a Iganjo, Seat of the Empire. Sorry, not a Janjo Castle.
I only know that they can't make the same sound. There's a J and a G in there, and they can't make the same sound.
I guess that is fair. That is completely fair. You discard this one, you deal 4 to an attacker or a blocker. For Ottawa, you discard it to bounce an enchantment, planeswalker, creature, artifact.
Basically a non-land permanent. Takanuma gives you a creature back, but it also mills 3 cards, so it even gives you extra selection. Sokenzen is the worst one. It makes 2 spirits. That's still amazing because you got to look at what the opportunity cost is. You're taking out basic mountain. You're taking out some land that doesn't ever have an impact when it's not on the battlefield. Like, oh, I drew a mountain for turn. It's nothing. It has no impact on the game. It's like these sometimes are just lands. That's fine, where they're equal to the card you took out. But every other time, they're just a spell you get to cast, and it's not even counterable, which is great. And then we all know Boseiju shoots a artifact enchantment non-basic, and they go get a basic.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're saying, these all are just untapped forest, untapped mountain, untapped plains, untapped island, untapped swamp. It's an untapped version of whatever color it is. And now, can you fetch it? No, but that's like the slight downside. You already have plenty of fetchables.
It actually doesn't matter that you can't fetch these because they don't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. So they're just lands. They're just basic lands in your deck that 1% of the time, even if it's only 1% of the time.
Which it's not. But even if it was.
Let's just say 1 out of 100 games, it's still free. And it is still worth playing, even if you're almost never going to use the ability.
Right, like if you tell me, oh, you're going to put Scattered Groves in your deck. Like, what's the downside of putting Scattered Groves? Like, well, it's a dual land and it cycles, so it can be replace itself, but it enters tapped. It's like, there's no but here. It's just either a land or a spell. Always amazing. These lands are by far the 5 best cards. Like, don't just pick up Boseiju and say you're done. You need all of them.
Yeah, you absolutely want to have all of these for all of your 1 and 2 color decks. I can't imagine building a 1 or 2 color deck going forward in that as soon as I start to lands, these go in. Like usually I have a cycle of lands. Like when I start building a 2 color deck, that I just go, okay, shocks, fetches, duels. Now you're gonna add in. Obviously you need a couple basics. Well, instead of one of those basics, it's gonna be I'm gonna have like for my blue black. I just built the blue black Satoru deck, and I'm going to go ahead and just go put in Ottawa, put in Takanuma. Right, and just move on with my day.
I think we are close to almost free roll on 2-color Field of the Dead mana bases because this is now 2 more free non-basic slots for every deck for the 2-color ones. Anyway, regardless of Field of the Dead, these cards are insane. You should play them all, and they will literally never disappoint you because they can't, because they're strictly better than the cards you're taking out for them, which is very rare in Commander.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because we don't talk about often the old lands that you don't that had in the little abilities from the old Kamigawa.
We're high on those too. We realized, hey, wait a minute, they're just as good.
They're also I think they're slightly worse than these.
I think it's close,
but because they have narrow abilities, but
they're in play and you get to use both.
They're just as good as these. They're also A pluses. You can just play them in every single one of your decks. Why would you not? They have minor upside. It's great to have these.
Mountains don't.
Yes.
So Kenzens do.
Yes. That is our video. Special shout outs to all of our patrons. Love you as much as you can without making you comfortable. You guys all make these videos possible. Thank you so much for the support. Also, super special thank you to our sponsor for this video, Into the AM. Absolutely awesome shirts. If you want to get the shirts, obviously, you can use our link, get 10% off, and we told you all the deals earlier. Just get these awesome shirts.
Yeah, I mean,
support the nerds.
You thought it was value to go to TCG Player, buy the cards you wanted anyway, or to go to Dragon Shield and buy the custom sleeves and we get a kickback on the order. This is like, you get 10% kickback. You get to save 10%.
And if you're using our link, they're going to see you're using the link, and they'll sponsor more videos because they know we have awesome fans who want to buy these shirts.
That just leads to better Nitpicking Nerds videos. It's insane. Yeah. We already did the shoutouts, actually, so it's time for a tidbit about our lives.
Well, we didn't do TCGplayer.com.
I think we just did, actually, because while shouting out Into the AM, cleverly worked in both of the other affiliates.
This guy is a complete genius.
I can't be stopped. Segway champion.
So, tidbit about our lives. When we recorded the set review, the whole set review where we talk about every rare mythic from the set, we had to stop halfway through and re-record because the camera's having trouble.
It was too much. It was literally just too much footage.
It was so much footage. Well, we just weren't completely prepared for it, and then on top of that, beyond anything, the next time we recorded, I forgot to delete the file from before.
Yeah.
So the footage was actually too much footage. Like the battery died the first time,
right?
Because it was a really long video, and then the second time the footage filled up the memory on the camera. I'm like, oh crap, it was blinking, and that's why you didn't get a tidbit in that video.
We were like, oh shoot, like maybe we should have, we could have done a quick wrap up of the set, but I think we already kind of did that. And even in this one, I was like, it's not the best for Commander, but there's still some good cards in there. We could have done some kind of wrap up. We were like, we don't have time to wait hours for this camera to charge again. We have to get this out. And I will tell you, 3 seconds after we said Peace Out Tribe Scout, the camera died.
The camera died while we were posing for Peace Out Tribe Scout.
It was insane.
It was pretty funny.
Though I never thought so.
Though I want to say, if we can talk about our set review, I think this set's just good for Commander. It's not like it's like brimming. It's not like there's
it doesn't need to be busted.
Tons and tons and tons of cards. But it's like I said, there's 20 to 30 cards in the set that will go in Commander decks regularly, even just for me when I'm building decks that I'm going to be using. And that is a lot of cards for Commander in one set.
I mean, even the lands alone are going to change how I build decks for like the rest of eternity. So that's already, I'm happy.
Yeah, so it was a good set for Commander, maybe even a great set. It's a good set, maybe even a great set.
And not a broken set, which is good.
It seems really awesome. PC's been playing it on Arena.
Oh, yeah, I'm already 3 drafts in.
Yes. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.